Heavy Metal Magazine, October of 1982, the horror issue. Greetings, friends. Today we are going to look at Heavy Metal Magazine, the October 1982 issue, dubbed the horror issue. This is a great painted cover by Jim Burns. Now, first up on the inside cover, we have a two-page spread ad for National Lampoon's Class Reunion from the people who brought you Animal House, starring Garrett Graham, Fred McCarran, Miriam Flynn, Stephen Furst, Shelley Smith, and Michael Lerner, with a special appearance by Chuck Berry. No class has less class than this class. The contents page. We start off with the dossier by Lou Stathis on page 5. Then Freak Show by Bruce Jones, illustrated by Berni Wrightson. Den 2 by Richard Corben on page 19. I'm Age by Jeff Jones, page 25. The Ape by Silverio Pisu, illustrated by Milo Manara on page 26. Scary Dreams section, frontispiece by Paul McCusker, page 33. The Horror, Phobias from the Dawn of Time to the Space Age by Jeff Goldberg. Mr. Valdemar, illustrated by Breccia. The Blind Flock by Kaza. Colorline by Royo, page 49. Now Eddie's in the Burnout Belt by Ron Martinez and Joe Ellen Trilling. Exit by Jim Thiessen, page 62. The Hand That Feeds by Anthony Stoner and Peter Cooper, page 65. Chainmail, page 67. Birth by John Stevens, page 68. The Third Sexual Revolution, Part 3, The Secret Tradition by David Black. Illustration by J.K. Potter. Irigal by Druillet on page 74. Zora by Fernando Fernandez. The Voyage of Those Forgotten, illustrated by Enki Bilal. Rock Opera by Rod Kierkegaard Jr., page 92. And of course, another installment of The Bus by Paul Kirchner, page 96. Ad for the Science Fiction Book Club, of which I was a member for several years. New vinyl, talking about some records killing joke in here. Nash the Slash, Chrome, Bauhaus, The Cure, and then some rather interesting little articles here. For example, the 10 sleaziest horror films ever made. Ape, that could be a contender. Plan 9 from Outer Space, I don't know if I would call that sleazy. Beast of Yucca Flats, not quite sure where sleazy comes in with that one. Doctor of Doom, I'd have to watch that again. A.K.A. Las Luchadores contra el Medica Asesino. Or The Wrestling Women vs. the Killer Doctor. Zombie, 1980. I wouldn't call that sleazy. Invasion of the Bee-Girls, possibly 1973. The Green Slime. Once again, not sure where they're getting the sleaze factor from the green slime. 5 haunting scenes from otherwise forgettable horror films, okay? And then the Spook Shelf, a look at various horror books of the day. Out to Lynch. Yes, a little interview with David Lynch. And remember, this is 1982. So we're talking about films like The Elephant Man and Eraserhead in this interview. One-page ad for some heavy metal t-shirts and, of course, that classic silver jacket. A nice way to start off this issue with Berni Wrightson and Bruce Jones' Freak Show. This is a continuing series, and I believe this started in August of 1982, so this would be the 3rd installment of Freak Show. I always thought that Berni was a bit influenced by Reed Crandall. Some of his stuff just has that Reed Crandall early creepy eerie kind of look to it. Nice one-pager to finish out this installment of Berni Wrightson and Bruce Jones' Freak Show. And of course here we have Den 2 Although this isn't really quite up to par with the original Den series. As far as the art goes, I just get a feeling that he was rushed with this Den 2 series. The Academy of Science Fiction, Fantasy, and Horror Films is pleased to announce the winners of their 9th annual awards ceremony. Not surprising, Harrison Ford, Karen Allen get it for Raiders of the Lost Ark. Spielberg gets it for Raiders of the Lost Ark, as well as a screenplay by Lawrence Kasdan. Richard Edlund, special effects, soundtrack, John Williams. It pretty much runs the gamut here. Of course, they do give Rick Baker the makeup award for American Werewolf in London. I was a member of the Academy of Science Fiction, Fantasy, and Horror Films for a while when I lived in Los Angeles and Orange County. And Dr. Donald Reed was the head honcho of the Academy. And if you joined, your membership was $20 a year. And every weekend they would have free screenings of movies. You know, typically genre films. Sometimes you would get a drama, but it was always in a theater. And you would get a lot of films that were sneak peeks. And here we go with the fine art of Milo Manara and the Ape. Manara was another one of those artists, just had a very fluid style. There we go with the horror. Phobias from the Dawn of Time to the Space Age by Jeff Goldberg. And let me just read a little bit of this. Love the illustration, by the way. That is just really nice, by Kenneth Smith. In the winter of 1958, Dr. R.J. Carey, a psychiatrist at the United Sheffield Hospital in London, was treating no less than 4 patients with severe cases of outer space phobia. According to his notes, 3 of them started to experience strange panic attacks shortly after the first Russian Sputnik went into orbit. The terror of the 4th was triggered by newspaper accounts of Sir Vivian Fuchs' expedition across Antarctica in 1957. He never got over the fact, Dr. Carey reported, that people were walking around upside down. And notice that Sir Vivian Fuchs. Does Fuchs ring a bell, folks? The Thing. John Carpenter's The Thing. And here we have a take on Poe's Valdemar story called Mr. Valdemar, with art by Breccia. Next up is The Blind Flock by Kaza. And page 49, we have Colorline, art by Royo. And this strange freaking story here. Now Eddie's in the burnout belt. On page 62, we have Exit by Jim Thiessen. Rather odd horror poem called The Hand That Feeds. Written by Anthony Stonier. Art prints. The art prints by Peter Cooper. And of course we have Chainmail with a rather hilarious little story to kick it off. This guy reading an issue of Heavy Metal, you can see the magazine, and it's just a big pair of tits on the cover. And he's reading it. A strange thing happened. One evening as I read your magazine, I underwent a transformation. You can see the magazine mutating and hands are coming out of it, and then grabbing him by the neck. I thought it was trying to kill me. And it's like kind of like merging with his head. But then I realized my sensory inputs and vital functions were being modified. My future shock was miraculously cured. My alienation was easier to cope with. Heavy metal is my favorite prosthetic device. Who needs a Sony Walkman? Bruno Martucci, Flushing, New York. And another installment of Philippe Druillet's Irregale. His stuff works great, black and white or color, but boy do I love to see the color on some of this Druillet work. Absolutely astounding detail. And then we come to Zora by Fernando Fernandez, another exceptional artist. Beautiful artwork. Once again, very nice colors. The Voyage of Those Forgotten by Kristen and Bilal, Enki Bilal. Check that out. Beautiful colors, excellent line work. The guy is just a cross-hatching fiend, I'll tell you. And Rod Kierkegaard's rock opera. Sammy Davis Vampire right there. And the back cover describing the contents within. As you just saw, they call this a horror issue. It's not even 50% horror, but they do have some very good stories in this. That concludes our look at Heavy Metal October of 1982 horror issue. As always, please like and subscribe, and I will talk to you later.